Hello students, this is Mrs. Miller, and we are working our way through the excerpt from Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from Birmingham City Jail. In our first video, we read the questions, and then in the next video, we started our close read. We just read it all the way through to get the gist of what he was saying. Now, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. used a lot of figurative language and made references to other things. So now I'm going to read it through, and I'm going to really dissect this piece so that I can better understand it. And this is a strategy that I want you to use. So you can go ahead and do this with me, okay? So the first thing I want to do is think about my background knowledge bag. I know that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was fighting for civil rights, that African Americans or black people were being mistreated because of the color of their skin. And they didn't have all of the same rights. And so I know that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Was all about nonviolence. So I'm just thinking about that before I read this a second time. So that's called utilizing my background knowledge. So I'm just going to put background knowledge. I'm not going to write down all of my background knowledge. I know quite a bit about Martin Luther King Jr., and I know that you all do too. So I'm just thinking about, and I want you to think about also what you already know about this topic, okay? Let's dissect this. You may well ask, why direct action? Why sit-ins, marches, etc.? Isn't negotiation a better path? Okay, so somebody who sees what's going on, what Dr. Martin Luther King is going through, is wanting to know, why are you doing all of this? Why don't you just negotiate instead? Okay, so I'm just going to put that. Why not negotiate? You are exactly right in your call for negotiation. Oh, so Dr. King says he does want to negotiate. Okay, I'm going to run out of room. I'm not going to have enough room. So this is where I take my Post-it and I put it on the side. And I'm going to use my notes on the side. And my friends, this is a strategy you can use during the I-STEP test and when you do other readings. If there's not a lot of room in the margins, you can go ahead and put a Post-it and we can annotate the text this way. So I know that Dr. King wants to negotiate. What I'm doing here is I asked a question and I'm monitoring my comprehension by stopping and figuring out what each sentence, what each chunk is telling me. Indeed, this is the purpose of direct action. Oh, so the reason he is doing all of this is so that he can negotiate. Okay, I'm going to jot that down. He is doing this so that he can negotiate. And I'm going to put NEG for short. So he is doing this so he can negotiate. And you say, well, what is this? What is this that he's doing? Well, it's right here. He's doing the direct action and the sit-ins and the marches as a way to be able to negotiate for what he wants, which is equal rights for everyone. Nonviolent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and establish such creative tension that a community that has constantly refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue. Okay, I'm going to monitor my comprehension again. What Dr. King is saying is when they are engaged in these activities here, then people who didn't want to negotiate before, they have that uncomfortable feeling. That's called tension. I want you to think about a time when, let's say you saw somebody doing something that they weren't supposed to do and they wanted you to go along with it, but you felt like, maybe I shouldn't do this. I'm not quite sure what to do. Well, that internal feeling is tension. That's what tension is. And what Dr. King is saying is, by doing these things here, having direct action, the sit-ins and the marches, it is creating tension, okay? These things are creating tension. Now, is it creating tension in other black people? Other African Americans? No. It's creating tension in who? the text states that it is creating tension in a community that has constantly refused to negotiate. So that would be the people who were in favor of putting blacks down because of the color of their skin. So these things are creating tension in the racist white community. And I put racist because I want you to remember, not every white person was racist. Not every person who wasn't black was against black people. So the community that he's talking about, the community that has refused to negotiate, is this. It's the racist white community. And I'm going to put in parentheses, not all whites. When I'm reading, I like to think about some of the teachers I work with. I think about Mrs. Stanley and Miss Jacek and Miss Osan and Mr. Knoll, how they would have been in this part, the not all whites part of the community. They would have been in favor of equal rights for all. Okay, so it's very important to remember that when he's talking about a community that has constantly refused to negotiate, he's talking about the racist white community. Okay. It seeks so to dramatize the issue that it can no longer be ignored. So by creating tension, this issue of racism can no longer be ignored. I just refer to the creation of tension as a part of the work of the nonviolent resistor. Okay, so somebody who is using nonviolence, then what they might want to do is create tension so that people are forced to change. So I'm going to jot that little note down. Again, I'm just monitoring my comprehension. So nonviolence, I can put create tension to force people to change. Okay, let's keep going. This may sound rather shocking. You might ask yourself, well, why would somebody who is using nonviolence want there to be tension in other people? But this is what Dr. King says, but I must confess that I am not afraid of the word tension or the uncomfortableness that he is creating in others. I have earnestly worked and preached against violent tension, but there is a type of constructive nonviolent tension that is necessary for growth. Right now, I see that there is this little one right here, and that tells me that there's a footnote at the bottom. And so if I look right down here, I can see the word constructive means serving a useful purpose. So by creating this tension, the constructive nonviolent tension, the tension is serving some kind of purpose, and we need that tension for growth. Okay, so I'm just going to jot myself a note here. Tension needed for growth. Okay, let's continue. Just as Socrates felt that it was necessary to create a tension in the mind so that individuals could rise from the bondage of myths and half-truths to the unfettered realm of creative analysis and objective appraisal, we must see the need of having nonviolent gadflies to create the kind of tension in society that will help men rise from the dark depths of prejudice and racism to the majestic heights of understanding and brotherhood. Wow, that is one really long sentence. So first of all, I need to think about who is Socrates. Well, Socrates was a great philosopher, a great thinker, and in order to help other people learn how to think, Socrates was saying, well, we have to create tension in our mind so that we can so that we can learn new things. Okay, so I'm going to jot myself a little note. That's who Socrates was. Socrates, he was a philosopher. I'm just going to put a great thinker. He was really, really smart. Okay, he says that we needed to create tension in our head so that we could learn new things. So we needed to create tension in our head so that we could learn new things. So Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is making a comparison, okay? We need to create tension in the mind so the individual could rise from the bondage of myths and half-truths. I see another footnote notation, bondage is slavery, so that we, like I said, so that we could learn new things. Unfettered means not limited or restrained by anyone or anything. Again, I just made this in plain language so that we could understand what he was saying, what Socrates is saying. Unfettered realm of creative analysis and objective appraisal. Now we're back to what Dr. King is saying, we must see the need of having nonviolent gadflies. A gadfly is an annoying person, especially one who provokes others into action by criticism, a fly that bites other animals. Is he saying that we should be a fly? Or we should be an annoying person? What is he trying to say? Well, Dr. King is trying to say that we should go ahead and use nonviolence. So he's saying that we should use nonviolence to create tension. And you know what? People are going to be annoyed. It's just going to happen. People will be annoyed. I told you Dr. King used a lot of figurative language in his writing. Okay? So use nonviolence to create tension, and you know, it's going to annoy people in society. That's what's going to happen. But this annoyance and this frustration is going to promote change. Okay? We will pick this up and we will finish our second reading and our text annotation in our next video.